Imagine all the Disney fairy tales without a happy ending. Hello there, I'm Joshua Cho and welcome to J Productions. Today we're looking at Tale of Tales, so why don't we get right into it. This is the latest film from Matteo Garrone, and it premiered at Cannes this year. And it's a very, very fascinating and interesting film, and that is because it takes the kind of like the fairy tales we know, but it really gets to their roots, and it goes past the Grimm's fairy tales and all the way back to the Pentamerone, which was written by Giambattista Basile? I don't know how to say this guy's name, but he wrote and gathered this collection back in the 1600s, and it's a very, very, very kind of like medieval kind of film, and it's very, very raw in the way the fairy tales are told. It's not covering it up with the happy endings and stuff that makes sense. This is dark. This is bleak. This is depressing. This is bloody. This is full of sex. Well, not full of sex, but it's got some sex. One of the storylines does anyway. But there's a lot of violence, and it's really, really, really very carnal in a way. And I found that absolutely interesting and engaging. The film stars Salma Hayek, Vincent Cassel, you also have Toby Jones, John C. Reilly, Shirley Henderson, you have Stacey Martin from Nymphomaniac, B.B. Cave, Christian Lees, Jonah Lees, and I'm sure there's a few other familiar character actors, but there's a lot of faces that you won't really recognize, and that's because this film is an Italian, French, and British co-production. And it's also the director's first English language film. He's an Italian filmmaker, and this film feels very Italian. A lot of the locations are real, and they look absolutely stunning and gorgeous, and these stories, like, it's hard for me to talk about this film without doing spoilers. I'll do my best, but I might end up doing a spoiler review later, and that's because this film, it kind of is about three of the fairy tales from this original source material, and it kind of like combines them together, and they kind of intersect, and they're thematically familiar and have some thematic relevance to why these three are together. And so the first one is Salma Hayek's character is a queen who really wants a son, and so her and her husband talk to a necromancer who kind of tells her if they get the heart of a sea beast, which is almost like a dragon, and if she eats it, she'll get a son, and that's all I'm going to tell you for that storyline. Then you also have Vincent Cassel's character, who is pretty much this guy who this king that sleeps around a lot, and he hears somebody with a very angelic voice, and so he tries to find her and make her his wife. And that's all I'm going to tell you about that, because there's a lot that you just need to sit down and watch. And then you also have Toby Jones' story, which is this king who his wife died and he only has his daughter, but then he kind of like makes his flea his pet, and then that flea kind of grows into like this giant creature and dies, and then he gets this hide of this creature and says, whoever can tell me where this hide came from can marry my daughter, and an ogre guesses it and takes his daughter, and that's all I'm going to tell you about that for now, unless I do a spoiler review, because this film, there's a lot to read in this film, and there's a lot that is what it is, but there's also a lot that I kind of read into that isn't necessarily what they were saying, but it can definitely be read that way, and I find that very interesting. It doesn't feel like a movie, like what we've come to know how a movie should be according to Hollywood standards. It's more just like, in a way, it is storytelling. The production design is absolutely lavish and gorgeous. The cinematography is great, though I kind of wish they shot it on film and not digital, just because I think it would have added more to the realism of it, and it just looked too new to me. It's well written, though. There are some lines that feel kind of modern. Like Vincent Cassel's character says, like at one point he's like, "Are you playing hard to get?" Which just doesn't feel like of that period, but who knows? And the music is great. So some of it feels kind of weird, but it makes sense as you're watching the movie. But it just feels odd for the type of movie that it is. But it's absolutely gorgeous to watch. There'll definitely be people that will declare this as a masterpiece. I don't think it is. It has a lot of pacing issues. and it's really hard to decipher what it's trying to say, even though like there's many things that it can say, and it could just be a film that is letting the audience kind of read it their own way. But I feel like I just the whole time I was just trying to think about like what is it grasping for, and when I finally did do a bit more research, I kind of got what it was saying, but there were other stuff that I kind of saw in it, like in a way, like these characters are all incredibly selfish, and bring a lot of what that happens to them onto themselves, and there's like certain like monsters in this film which I kind of felt weren't really the monster. It was just the main character saw them that way, and in a way, like I really don't want to spoil anything, so I highly recommend checking it out. Fortunately, it's a very limited release. I only got to sort out like 4 screenings that are happening in my city over 2 weeks, and so I don't know. There's one they'll be showing this Friday, 2 times in Brisbane, but I don't know how it's going to be for the rest of the world and other cities. But if you do get your hands on it, I highly recommend checking it out. It feels very medieval, and I love that, and I just thought it was really well done, really well handled. It's incredibly interesting, and I just had a really great time with this film as well. And I think it's absolutely gorgeous, but it's not a movie that I love at this moment. I feel like I need to think about it more. I think I need to watch it a few more times before I can really say if I love it or not. But for this moment, I thought it was great. I thought it was really good, really well done. And I love how carnal it is, and how medieval, and how it isn't the kind of Disney-fied kind of fairy tales. It's kind of like stripped down to the roots from where the source material is from. And I absolutely love that kind of feel. It's not gothic. It's past that. It's like I said, it's medieval, and it's awesome in that way. So I give this film 4 stars. It's a really great film, and I think there will definitely be people that will appreciate it even more than me, and that will declare it a masterpiece. I don't think it is, but I think it could be close. And like as time goes by, I feel like I could appreciate it more. So that's all the time we have for today. If you could see the film and have any thoughts on it, feel free to comment below. You can my Facebook page, like that, comment there, follow me on Twitter, and don't forget to subscribe. Anyway, I'm Joshua Cho, this is Jet Productions. Just get out there and watch good movies.